reclaiming the education of our youth. It's encouraging to have a room full of people. Feels like the great and the beautiful spirit of the Native American is starting to wake up. Just judging by the different nations that are here, what could we do and what can we do differently that is better and more meaningful for our children? That's the question, and that's what's going on right now.
Bringing up children to be healthy, positive, really peaceful children is a collective work. And so we have to come together and feel each other's energies and do this collective flourishing and learn from each other and share with each other and be vulnerable with each other about topics that are really hard, about topics that we don't necessarily even know how to put into words. Without these kinds of gatherings, we limit ourselves in being able to grow as community leaders and educators.
It was really healing just because I think that we got to talk about the real important topics concerning education, one of those being outcomes. And I think that opened the door for so many positive ways of looking at the ways that communities are resilient, the way that people and children are resilient. And I think that we need to focus on those protective factors within our community to really guide the programming in tribal communities.
I think ultimately what we are honoring in our children is what we don't see them, what is not honored when they go to school. Not all our children are good at reading or writing or math. They are going to learn that. They are going to do their best to learn that. But all children have different strengths. Their strength might be art. Their strength might be dance. Their strength might be gymnastics. Their strength might be singing our songs or dancing. And so it's really important at KCLC to honor the whole child. And so when we don't, when our children enter the doors of what we've been entering into for the last 100 years or more with Bureau of Indian Education schools and public schools, our children and the communities that they come with and the strengths that they come with are not always honored. So KCLC, what we try to build on is the strengths of our community and what our community tells us and teaches us and our elders and says that language is the responsibility of the family to give. And so many people are trying to do that. But in 2017, we need help. And our children are in school every day. And I feel like the hope that our languages, our native languages, can be in school every day is dual language education.
It's always very informative when you come to these types of symposiums because they offer information that maybe you haven't thought about or have been thinking about. Well, this morning's session was really interesting because I happen to have worked with the Pueblo for about 12 years in the agriculture program. So my background with the Pueblo is working with being director of the farm services and starting a farmer's market. And during those years, I had always done reflecting on our people, our ancestors, what did they do? How did they go about living a good life and not having to be dependent so much on the monetary values of America?
Camino de Paz Secondary School is on a 10-acre organic farm. We have a goat dairy, an orchard, a pond, pastures, and wildlife areas. Camino de Paz represents a group of adolescents living together and creating their own community centered around meaningful adult-like work First of all, Montessori herself was pretty revolutionary. As she said, I consider that as we're speaking about ideas based on development, we must be more revolutionary. So common to all human organisms in all this development, she outlined these things. Education must include the entire personality, physical, social, intellectual, emotional, and spiritual. The child has an inner guide that operates when there's freedom to choose and follow one's interest. The head and the hand always work together. So she didn't separate like academic, intellectual from physical. To her, they were a united process. The environment must be carefully prepared to meet the needs of the child at each stage of development. Language and an environment rich in language is crucial to development. This really surprised her, the things she was seeing. She wrote, "In order to follow the children, I changed my whole life. I was nearly 40. I had in front of me a doctor's career and a professorship at the university, but I left it all behind because I felt compelled to follow them and to find others who could follow them, for I saw that in them lay the secret of the soul."
Being a bilingual instructor, I've been, the door was open for other venues like the Montessori style of teaching, and that's kind of sparked my interest. Again, I would like to embed what I received here and implement it into my classroom.
Maria Montessori's ideas on educating young people doesn't have any cultural boundaries. It's applicable to any culture at any point in time. I mean, that's what I'm starting to believe, and it's more based on the humanity of people.
One of the most unique aspects of the symposium was the invaluable connection to elders. It's something that isn't typically acknowledged because, like, in a lot of professional training spaces, we're so disconnected from the concept of community and the concept of family, but family, relatives is like at the core of what it means to be human. And so bringing in elders and valuing their experiences is so humanizing. In the same way that parents were uplifted. And you know, the first day they were given a panel. They were like the second folks to come on, and that was so uplifting.
One of the first observations that I went to last year, I noticed that the kids were doing things on their own. They were getting their own water. They were putting away their activities after they had finished it. And I had realized I had to stop doing things for her. And let her do things on her own. So everything, we had to carry that ideology from the school to the home. And that's helped out tremendously, and I think it reinforces that I can do things on my own attitude in her.
My name is Loretta Cordero, and I have a 6-year-old daughter that goes to KCLC. She's been going to KCLC for, I believe this is her 4th year now, and I love it. We love it. I feel like KCLC just supports her in whatever she likes, whatever her interests are. They're just right there to support her and push her. Her confidence is just sky high because of KCLC. Her language, I put her in there first because of the language, of course, Keres, you know, we want to revitalize our language. But then I learned after that the education is just, I mean, there's nothing else like it right now. You know, I wouldn't want to put her anywhere else.
And whether it's good or bad, they learn, whether in Keres, whether in English, they learning from us. So the school has been very, also is teaching me it reminds me to keep speaking Keres, it reminds me that the kids are our future. It's them that they'll continue our language?
My name's Lynette. I have a 5-year-old, Kachayats, that goes to KCLC. This is her first year, and we just moved here a year ago, so it's like a totally different lifestyle for us. We grew up in Clovis on an Air Force base and then moved to Farmington after my dad retired. And you know, my kids, you know, growing up, we knew a little about the Cochiti traditions, but not a lot. So after my grandfather passed away, we decided to move to Cochiti, and it's the first time that, you know, my youngest daughter and my oldest daughter have ever heard the language. They're both learning it, and it's amazing because...
But greatly appreciate the opportunity to have our young ones reflect the goals and obligations of our leadership reflected in their education. And I greatly appreciate the opportunity to have these young folks and the family take care of our children. Greatly appreciate that. Thank you so much. Thank you. You know, and one outstanding feature was when we were doing observations. One of the teachers was teaching math, but she was teaching all in Wekani, all in our language. And they weren't just doing 10 plus 10, they were doing hundreds into the thousands. And watching this play out, I was in awe. And one of the other teachers, Mara, I seen her at the elementary, and she had a class full of about 40 kids. And there she was, just teaching away, doing her thing, and all these 40 kids were all in attention. And then lo and behold, she's at KCLC. I was like, I want that teacher teaching my kid. Yeah, but thank you guys, thank you. Appreciate it.
By first giving thanks to our elders and that participate in the parent seminars and in just our village as a whole. We look up to them as a source, a resource for knowledge. They all participate in the parent seminars and share their knowledge, as well as reminding us parents how back to those core values and concepts and principles, and back to what Merle was talking about of allowing the children to grow and to be independent in a way, but knowing that they're going to grow to help to be interdependent within our communities. But in order to be interdependent, they have to know who they are.
I learned my language at a really late stage in my life. I did. I wasn't born with it. But anyway, I learned from just everybody around me talking, and that's how I learned it. And so we have 8-year-old boy. We adopted him when he was a little baby. And so he became very fluent because we talked to him every day. He became very fluent, and I was really happy. When he was of age, I sent him to Head Start, and he lost it. He lost a lot of it. And so that's why we're trying to bring back that language in our family too. That's why we have the family gatherings. Anybody can learn their language. It's just that you need to talk to each other's every moment, from the time you get up, from the time to the time you go to bed. It is your language. That is the only way, because our language is not written.
I fill in when there's a need for translation of certain books, or try to involve the children in the traditional way of life at home, as far as the language, the dances, and the everyday life at Cochiti. Like I was telling the group we had a while ago, it takes everybody, the whole village, to raise our kids. I hope everybody takes that into account.
As you know, Head Start opened its doors in the late 60s, and when they first came on scene, of course, it was to teach English. And so I'm very proud to be a part of a Head Start that supports us and allows language and culture in the classroom. Head Start identified 5 domains in early learning that was necessary for success for children entering kindergarten. And so what we did was we made it our own. We made it to what the education in Jemez is all about. We said we can teach these domains using our language and our culture. And we also said language and culture is at the core of our education. And so we worked with the schools, the kindergarten teachers, and found out what resources do you need and how can we bring more language and culture into the classroom. We have 2 schools that we're working with, and we're hoping to transition our strengthen the transitions there. So the first one is the Riverside Charter School program. And then this year they're doing the first grade, which is 80-20. And so it's 80% Jemez is spoken and 20% English.
Kinship, which is really important. Your relationships, your partnerships, the individuals that you meet when you walk. And then this the process of thinking. Nasaha case. Somebody says that you think is really important in the morning is what are you thinking? What are you planning? What are you wanting to make happen in your life? And at the end, it's going to affect your community, the people that you work with, your families. And I think that's so important. When I was really excited when I saw the elders standing in front today, I was like, yes, that's where it is. And that process happens every day.
The journey for culture and language and revitalization of language is like what you've heard of the sleeping giant. All the indigenous tribes are coming back up. We're all re-establishing our boundaries, our territories, our kingdoms in our different parts of the world. And I think that's something we're at that right now. I think it's a really exciting time in all level of discipline that we're coming back to appreciate who we are as human beings, as Diné people, and that's something that I'm really excited about. And I hope our children are just as excited as we are about that opportunity.
So this is really an amazing thing because language is such a vital part of our lives. It's, you know, it's our self-identity. It's, you know, I'm very fortunate that I grew up in the language. My father spoke, my parents, my grandparents, so I learned the language at a young age, and I didn't realize how much of an urgency it was that our young kids aren't learning. So that's why I came back home. I was living in Texas, and I came back home to make sure that our kids are getting instructed, our kids, so getting the tools like this that these are providing for us are helping me and helping our community, you know, creating fluent speakers, creating kids that can conversate with our elders, kids that can go to the senior center for lunch and conversate with our elders.
I think it's just good to have that feeling when you get everyone who's trying to do the same thing get together as one and you exchange all that information and try to help each other out. Because especially with us as indigenous communities, in one way or the other, we really are one people. We really are. We're all the tribes within the United States, into Mexico and Canada. The thing that I learned here, I think is gonna stick with me. The people that I've met as well are gonna stick with me. I think I have some brand new friendships going on and networking, you know, and I'm just glad I was able to attend, and it makes me look forward to the next one.
Let's do that. Let's build. And my hope is that the information, the resources, the networks that you've built over these 2 days have given you an idea that has helped you to think about how we can do this ourselves. Because when we talk about outcomes, when we talk about sovereignty, those education and sovereignty aren't in the same sentence a lot of the times. And for indigenous, tribal communities, we have our right to educational sovereignty. That means you, state, federal government, all pass your test when it's convenient for me. For right now, this is what I want: a fluent, kind, responsible, coachity student. And when I have that, then we can take these scores and check that out. Especially when the state school system has failed us over and over again. It's kind of like, at this point, what do we have to lose? We'll do it ourselves, you know? And this money, tyranny of outcomes. You know, Mara got that definition right. So I just, you know, any of these outcomes, it comes from seeing KCLC. It comes from seeing our little kids being able to multiply and divide in Keres. It comes from our students reading an English cursive paragraph and then telling it back to me in Keres what they just read and wrote. And that it's possible. It's possible. And then it blows my mind because we sat up here and listened to dual language experts showing us all the data that supports all these things we already know. Why aren't these a part of our systems already? You know, the proof is there. For people that need proof, it's there. So I just think it's important to remember that achievement and how we define it and success is up to us. And when we're strong in those things, when we know the things that are important to us, then it's easy to say, no, thank you, state charter. This is the road I'm going down. A lot of hard work, but when we know where we're headed, it's easy to say, wow, that $100,000, I'll find another way to get it. Thank you.
Essa usha chanach hin making us go horse Americana essa Katie Pecos ho his okuta hin koika osota shower hanus hin making osota hin Americana essa koika blue sky.
You guys give me hope, and you guys are so special to me. And so I just wanted to say that again. So listen to your elders and listen to those stories, because that's worth more than money, and it's worth more than anything else you can get in this world, what we have here at home. And I know because my music has taken me all over the world, and you know what? There's no place like here. And there's no people like our people, and there's no languages like our languages. You are one in a million, and you were born for a reason, so remember that. Be my stone, you're my stone. You're my stone. Dedicate this song to all the mothers, the grandmothers, the aunties, the big sisters, all of the women that are the gravity from which our universe rotates around.
Just want to thank you, yeah, for everything you are. You taught me how to love myself when nobody else believed in me. Yeah, I know they didn't see what you see. So now I give it all away. Just like you said. You said I give it all away.
Yeah.